All right, my beautiful friends. We just pressed the Let's Go Live button, and I want to welcome you back from a very busy weekend, and I hope your week is off to an incredible start. You're starting off with a little bit of unity vibe out there. You feel it? RFK Jr. has officially endorsed Trump. Now, Tulsi Gabbard also joining the party. The Unity Party, baby! We got some clips of some of that activity here today, but we also have some court filings that we're going to go through. 2 items hot off the press after a long DNC week. Ugh, gross. That was capped off very nicely by a momentum shifter with the RFK endorsement here in Arizona. And it was an outstanding event, although we didn't make it inside. But we had a great time being there, meeting a couple people, and just seeing the environment. There's a lot of energy out there afoot. We're going to talk about it. But today we've got 2 nice filings that have dropped. As you saw in the title, Jack Smith is scrambling and begging to get his case back. It got dismissed in Florida. Oh, Judge Cannon came out and said, sorry, Jack, you are not a real boy. He said, I am a real boy. No, you're not. Sorry. You were illegally appointed on this case. You're not even a real U.S. attorney. And you stole a bunch of money out of the public treasury. Jack Smith filed his appellate brief into the 11th Circuit. So we'll read through it. We'll see what his arguments are, because the Trump team will be responding to this. And as it stands, this case is gone. It's in the dumpster. So he's trying to dig it out of the dumpster, shake it off, brush it off, and say, please let me back. Come on, Judge. I want to be a real boy. No. Well, we'll see what the 11th Circuit says. We'll go through that. We'll take a look at some of the statutes and see what he said. Then we've got reaction. MSNBC was responding to this. Tulsi Gabbard came out today, officially endorsed President Donald Trump. And she's also talking about how we have to end this retribution, this pattern of political prosecution that the Democrats have unleashed against Donald Trump, who is totally innocent. We also got a clip from our Attorney General, Merrick Garland, who is giving everybody a stern warning out there that if you even think about challenging this 2024 election, whoo, you might end up in the gulags like the rest of the J6ers. So we'll see what he said. Lisa Monaco standing up there to his side. Then we had another filing from our old friend Steve Sadow. Not that he's old. We just haven't talked about this case in a while. Who is now back in Florida. I'm sorry, Georgia. That's how long it's been. In Georgia, we know there's a big Fani Willis. The classified documents case is the Florida case. Big Fani Willis, I mean, she's been having a rough go ever since she got court ordered to break up with her boyfriend off this case. And he had to go on his cruises alone, not going to get paid any more of that Georgia government money. So he's now just flying around Belize, or maybe he went back to Napa Valley. We're talking about Nathan Wade, Nathan's hot dog, of course. Fani Willis has been struggling with that, still trying to stay on that case. She is, of course, still on the case. And now Sadow has submitted their reply brief in the Court of Appeals. Fani is trying to get the Court of Appeals to keep her on the case. And Sadow is saying, no, she's got to go. So we're going to go through that. We've got a new filing there. And Trump was also out. He was hanging out with, I think, some Vietnamese folks. That's right. Including this guy called Hung Cao, which is fun. We'll see what Trump said about that whole exchange. And we've got some new Trump campaign ads and some debate battling happening because Kamala is trying to say that Trump is trying to change the rules, or trying to back out of a debate, which is because she's trying to change the rules because she's scared, because she can't talk so good to people or the press or the media or during a debate, as Tulsi Gabbard had confirmed for us. And so we've got some good stuff to get to, my friends. Very glad and grateful you're here and with us. It's a beautiful Monday. We got a fresh new week ahead. Thank you so much for subscribing wherever it is you're joining us. We appreciate you liking this video, subscribing, sharing this video with a friend or family member. It's election season. And so hopefully they can come join us and get something good out of it. I mean, hopefully we can too. We'll have to wait and see. But thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking the video. Thanks for sharing it. If you want to become a member and get some extra content and really connect with some people, who are here during these live streams at a deeper level. We also have our community on Locals and our members-only community. Links for both of those are in the description below. We do members-only streams in the morning. We've got some great community members all chatting away. It's a lot of fun. A little bit of a smaller stream, a little bit more intimate. Not that kind of intimate, but it's a lot of fun. So come and join us on the tubes in the mornings for our members only. But without any further ado, my friends, let's get into business. We got some documents fresh out of the oven, and we always love some fresh documents, starting with Jack Smith. Jack Smith, the illegitimate so-called prosecutor who got laughed out of court for being illegally appointed by Judge Eileen Cannon in Florida in the classified documents case, is back. We thought, oh, he'd learned his lesson. He's not a real boy at all. But he has decided he's going to fight for it. He's taking this classified documents case, which has now been dismissed, up to the 11th Circuit. You can see we're in the Court of Appeals here today. And it is the case of Trump versus the United States, or vice versa, rather. They're prosecuting him. Trump is now, he's successful in this case. The case has been dismissed because Jack Smith was illegally appointed. He's not a U.S. attorney. He was not appointed by President Biden. He was not confirmed by the U.S. Senate. And what has happened here is they've cobbled together, historically speaking, a bunch of other statutes that they used as justification to give them power to basically do whatever the hell they want. And so Jack Smith came, misappropriated tens of millions of dollars, 24 million, I think was the tally at the last count, against President Trump. They raided his house. They took pictures of Melania's bedroom. There were no classified documents in her underwear drawer, but they went in there, at least into the bedroom. Don't know if they actually opened that drawer, but we're talking about the FBI, so probably. But now Jack Smith is upset. His case has been dismissed, and now he's trying to fight to keep it alive. So as you can see, a bunch of interested parties here. Let's fast forward through all of the introductory stuff. The individual who was signing off on this via Jack Smith is James Pierce, one of the more, I was going to say intelligent, but let's say competent motion drafters is here. James Pierce. And we can see, we're going to fast forward through the table of contents, through the table of authorities, and get into Jack's argument to see how dumb it is. So here is what he says. All right, 11th Circuit, I am a real boy. Accept me. He says, all right, listen, Congress, this is Jack, has bestowed on the Attorney General, which would be Merrick Garland in this case, the guy who appointed him, like the heads of many executive departments, broad authority to structure the agency he leads to carry out his duties. 2 statutes give Garland the authority to appoint people like me. U.S. Code 515B 5331. Now, what's so interesting about these, as we poke around here, 515B, if we look here on this page that we've already queued up here, we're looking at the Attorney General and FBI subsections here. So as we go through this, just to give us some bearing on what we're talking about, where we are in the U.S. Code. 28 U.S. Code, there's a bunch of chapters inside of it. We're looking here, we've zoomed in on this section, the Attorney General. So when we go back to the motion, 515B and 5331. So 5331, you'll see is right here, 531, all the way up to 540D, right? These are the sections, the subsections that we're in. So that means that they're relying on, with 533.1, a subsection right in the FBI. That's not the Attorney General. So they're relying on 533 right here, investigative. This is the FBI section. They're going to rely on this, the ability that the Attorney General may appoint officials with the FBI, or in the FBI section, to conduct other investigations regarding official matters under the control of the DOJ and the Attorney General. So they're going to be using, it's an official, so they're going to say this plus that other statute, even though this is not within their purview, right? We're talking about other officials who might come in and give them expertise on something, not other U.S. attorneys to go prosecute whoever they want, however they want, whenever they want. My point is, they're cobbling together a bunch of statutes. Take a look. They're also going to point us to 509 and to 510. And when we go back to these statutes, you'll see 509 and 510, and all these different statutes are all talking about the functions of the Attorney General and the delegation of authority of the Attorney General and the Attorney General to advise the president and do all the things. But nothing in here says the ability to appoint a special counsel. They're just cobbling it together by referencing a bunch of different things. So just think of it, we're going to make a cake by sprinkling in all these different ingredients, right? 509, 510, 515, 533, and all these ingredients are from different subsections. But the problem is you can't do that. You just need something that is a cake, right? You can't make it up from all of this other stuff. So precedent and history confirm those authorities, they say. So we've already done this before and nobody was upset with us. And historically speaking, we've done it, many times. There's a long history of this, a long tradition of special counsel appointments by AGs. And this is true, by the way, right? There is true. Like nobody's really made this argument before. Kind of came up in a prior case called Nixon, but many people would argue that was dicta, which means it's not actually relevant to the holding of the case, which means it kind of doesn't count. The district court's contrary views, this is Judge Cannon, conflicts with an unbroken course of decisions, including by the Supreme Court, which is debatable, that the Attorney General has this authority and is at odds, so Cannon is at odds, with long-standing appointment practices. Now, this court should reverse the 11th Circuit. Now, here are the questions that the 11th Circuit needs to grapple with. Question 1, whether Merrick Garland had the authority by the statutes, by the law, to appoint Jack Smith in a way that was in alignment with the Constitution. Because as we know, the president makes the appointment and the Senate confirms. And whether the statutes that Merrick Garland invoked, which are many of them, to appoint Jack Smith constitute other law, which means that they have this other provision, so they can just appoint whomever they want. Now, such that using that source of funding for the special counsel was consistent and that Jack Smith didn't steal the money. So here's the background on this case. Now, we're familiar with this. We'll fly through it. But remember, when we rewind the clock on this, a grand jury in Florida returned an indictment that charged Trump with classified docs charges. Now, the grand jury was illegally impaneled, so he skipped that part because Merrick Garland appointed you already. And then they were investigating it, impaneling the grand jury with an illegal prosecutor. Then what we know is they charged other people with crimes, and there was a dismissal of the case. Thanks for the procedural history there, Jack. You didn't talk about your appointment a whole lot in there. Notice that? We'll see if he gets to it. But he didn't talk about the Trump running, Trump's announcement of running, when Jack, the date of that, when Jack got appointed, the date of that, how Merrick Garland appointed that. We'll see if it comes up, but pretty light on those facts. So here's the legal background. Now, the appointments clause, here's the statement of the case. We'll see, maybe we're going to get to it. Provides that officers of the United States shall be appointed by the president. See, that shall word means it's not discretionary. It must be done with the advice and the consent of the Senate. That's in the Constitution. But Congress may, by law, right, they can pass statutes, which would be the U.S. code that we're talking about, where they can create, where may by law vest the appointment of other officers as they think proper in the president alone, in the courts of law, or in the heads of the department. So Congress then, by statute, can say that Merrick Garland can appoint certain people. So Congress has told us, this is Jack Smith writing, that Attorney General shall be the head of the DOJ and be appointed by the president with the advice and the consent of the Senate. Section 503, very clear. No one's questioning that. Congress has, with 3 limited exceptions not relevant here, vested, they say, in the Attorney General all functions of the DOJ, including the power to prosecute all crimes and to supervise the conduct of the litigation and to authorize other officers to perform those functions. And in fact, they say, in addition, Congress has also given Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, the power to commission attorneys, right? This is where they're going to jump in here, that are specially retained under authority of the DOJ as special assistants to the attorney. And they're referencing 515A and B. Now, Congress has further provided that they may appoint officials to detect and prosecute crimes. This is 533, right? So this is in the FBI subsection, and this is in the DOJ subsection. So when we go to 515, these are authorities for legal proceedings. So the Attorney General, this is where they say their authority is. The Attorney General or any other officer of the DOJ or any attorney specially appointed by the Attorney General may, when directed, conduct any kind of legal proceeding which they're authorized by law to conduct. Okay, so they're just saying this person right here. Wait a minute, this law says that we can have attorneys who are special. Wow, and they shall take the oath, and so that gives us the power to do this. Foreign counsel employed in special cases not required to take the oath, but the Attorney General shall fix the salary of a special assistant or special attorney. Right, and so often we're thinking of these like as expert liaison attorneys. Somebody who's an expert in tribal law to come in and help us with tribal law. Someone who's in private practice about whatever, pick one. And then they come in and they help. They support the main U.S. attorney who is still the actual U.S. attorney. So you can see their argument continues. Now, in 1999, the Attorney General issued a regulation. This is not a statute. This is not a law. This was not passed by Congress. This was passed by the Attorney General. Issued a regulation from the executive branch. We have a separation of powers problem here. Providing an internal framework for certain special counsel appointments. She created these regs. Now, the special counsel regulation replaced the independent counsel regime, which had already been established by U.S. code. So watch this little magical switcheroo that our crap government does all the time. And they admit it here. This is the prosecutor admitting this. Oh yeah, we had something called U.S. code, sections 591 through 599, title 28, right there. And then when Congress didn't renew those, what did they do? They just made up their own out of their booties. 28 Code of Federal Regulations, 600.1 to 600.10. Oh, good. We got the same exact statutes. Congress deleted them, and then some bureaucratic hack, in this case called Janet Reno, then took these and shoved them into the Code of Federal Regulations and just say, we're going to take those powers that Congress now expired, so we don't have those anymore, and we're just going to say we have them now. The special counsel regulation provides a procedure for appointing a special counsel. Okay, but you don't have the authority because this is gone. And the Constitution says that you can only make those appointments as they're dictated by law, but this is gone now. And so what the DOJ did is they gave themselves their own power. The regulation provides a procedure for appointing a special counsel. That's, well, Congress deleted it, so I guess we'll give ourselves the procedure now. Within the context of the established procedures of the department. It's like, what on earth? How did this even get allowed to happen was allowed to exist for so long? The regulation seeks to strike a balance between the independence and the accountability in certain sensitive investigations. Okay, no one cares. You didn't have the authority to create that. Congress gave you power in the U.S. Code right here, and then you have had that deleted because the regulation replaced it because it was gone. It's illegal. Now, the Appropriations Clause provides that no money, so he stole his position and he stole Jack Smith a ton of money, no money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but otherwise in consequence of appropriations made by law, right? You can't get a check unless the law, the code, the statutes passed by Congress, unless they give you that power, that right to draw upon those funds. The clause requires no more than a law that authorizes the disbursement of the specified funds for identified purposes. And they say, well, look, our useless government says in 1987, Jack Smith from the DOJ, he's like, look, we've got a slush fund. I can take all the money we want. In 1987, Congress passed a, quote, permanent indefinite appropriation. Do you know what that means? You can translate that. That's government thievery, bureaucratic babble. It's called a slush fund, all right? An endless slush fund to, quote, pay all necessary expenses of investigations and prosecutions by independent counsel appointed pursuant to the provisions of the U.S. Code. Okay, Congress passed a law, a portion of the U.S. Code for independent prosecutors. The Independent Prosecutor Council statutes don't exist anymore. Jack Smith stole that money. He's not an independent counsel. So then on November 18th, Merrick Garland appointed John L. Smith. Okay, that's Jack Smith. His real name's John. He uses the name Jack because he's pretending with his real name too. I know it's a common moniker, but I mean, just use John if you're proud of that. You're not a real prosecutor, and you're not a real Jack, John. Nice try. Pathetic. Just be yourself, man. You're not a real prosecutor. Go back to the International Criminal Court. You've got no power here. Stop stealing our money and prosecuting our president. John Smith as special counsel. Garland appointed him November 18th. Now we'll get into some procedure to conduct the ongoing investigation referenced, described in the motion for judicial oversight, right? So remember, Trump had the warrant. They executed the warrant, raided his house on August 8th. Then Trump filed this response saying, you guys have been totally corrupt in the raid. Filed, he wanted a motion for judicial oversight. That's when we had the special master come in, get appointed, and provide oversight over this case. All the lefties cried, I can't believe that they're questioning the dignity of the DOJ. Responsible over, because they were ransacking Trump's property. As we know, as RFK has already confirmed for us, they put moles into different campaigns and create crimes, create problems. RFK confirmed that. Jill Stein confirmed that. Nicole Shanahan confirmed that. Trump's been saying that for ages. Many of his deputies have as well. FBI is corrupt. There's moles. There's undercover people who are trying to create crimes. They made them up. They made up fake crimes like the Steele dossier. We had the FBI lovers, Strzok and Page. Well, stop him. We'll stop him, says Peter Strzok, that goofball who's now on MSNBC. What a loser, that guy. He's so pathetic, he blocked me on X. Because he can't take it, man. They're FBI little snowflakes. It's pathetic. But anyways, they're all now crying because Trump challenged them. So then Trump declares he's running for president at some point. Then they appoint Jack Smith illegally. Now, the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, also authorized Jack to conduct an ongoing investigation into January 6th. Also illegal. Shouldn't have never been appointed there either. Relying on the authority vested in the Attorney General, this is what Garland used, okay? These four subsections, 509, 510, 515, and 533. And we've already explored these statutes here many times. We've read through them a lot in the initial motions, the back and forth that got us to this position, that got this case dismissed. And we read through at length Judge Cannon's interpretation of why none of these work for them. But just very briefly, let me show you them. So we've got 509, 510, 515. So 509 is going to be here, the functions of the Attorney General. And they basically just say that he can do kind of anything he wants, right? All functions of the agencies are vested in him. So he can do a bunch of stuff, right? That's 509. Then we go back, then we look at 510, delegation of authority. The Attorney General may from time to time make provisions and delegate other authority. And so they're cobbling that one together. Then we go over to 515, which I think we saw earlier. 515 says he's got other powers. And then we jump into the FBI subsection. Okay, so 515 is here saying he's got authority now to basically smash everything together. Each attorney, these are special attorneys now who can come in as special assistants, which are generally, they're not U.S. attorneys or special counsels. This is a statute that is governing something different, of course. And then what we see is 533, and that's the one in the FBI. So he's saying if we cobble all of those together, that gives us the power to create a Jack Smith. And says also, we've done this before, prior practice. Okay, we've already done this. And we've funded other special counsels, or in this case, like a special attorney. It's kind of the same. They're going to walk us through how they make their argument. But we've also been funded through this independent counsel slush fund because we're allowed to do that because there's a provision that says we have access to other stuff. appointed under a law other than the now defunct Ethics in Government Act. So it's our money. We're fine. So let's go back to the beginning. Trump moved to dismiss this. When we were in Judge Cannon's courtroom, Trump said, all right, motion to dismiss. Jack, you're not a real boy. Not at all. You violated your appointments clause. You're illegal, and you stole a bunch of money. There is no statute in that entire list that we looked through that authorizes a special counsel, and the independent counsel is gone. There is no money that's available for you either. Now, Judge Cannon granted the motion. She dismissed this indictment. It was beautiful. The district court accepted, for the purposes of its decision, they said that Jack Smith was an inferior officer. The special counsel was an inferior officer whose appointment Congress could vest by law in the U.S. Code. When we think of law, we think Congress passing U.S. Code. But in the district court's view, none of the four statutes cited by Judge Cannon, or by Jack Smith in this case, because Merrick Garland appointed Jack Smith, so 509, it doesn't say special counsel. 510 doesn't say special counsel. 515 says special attorney for other things. And the 533 is for the FBI. So there is no special counsel that has all of the powers of a U.S. attorney who can prosecute anyone, anywhere, at any time with little oversight, if no oversight or minimal oversight from the DOJ. Nothing, said Cannon, supports that. You can't just pick these out of your booty. Now, the district court also recognized that there was this Nixon case, that Congress, in those four statutes, had, quote, vested in the Attorney General the power to appoint subordinate officers, including a Watergate special prosecutor. But the district court dismissed that statement as non-binding and unpersuasive dicta. Right? So they're saying it's not dicta. That's super important. Dicta is, it's just, cases are very long and complex. We have these opinions that are hundreds of pages long. And sometimes the judges talk about other things that aren't essential to the holding of the case. They're saying that Cannon said, well, that was dicta, and so therefore it doesn't count. And so the appropriate remedy was dismissal, saying that Cannon said there was no statute that permits Jack to exist here, and they also found that he's not eligible to receive funding. Jack Smith stole tens of millions of dollars. And they didn't impose any remedy for that, but Jack Smith should pay all of that money back. The DOJ should pay it back. Standard of review. We'll fast forward through that because this is an appeal, but here's the summary of Jack's argument. Let's see what he says. Now, the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, validly appointed Jack Smith, who's also properly funded. They say, unfortunately, in ruling otherwise, Cannon deviated from Supreme Court precedent, didn't understand the statutes, and didn't understand the long history of how this works. It says clearly, this is how it works. The Constitution says that Congress may give a head of a department like Merrick Garland the power to appoint an inferior officer. Here, they did that. And they can appoint a special counsel as an inferior officer who can do whatever he wants. Now, they say in Nixon, similarly, the Supreme Court had already determined that those four statutes and their authority to appoint a special prosecutor, which is comparable to a special counsel. So it's very, very similar, they say. Now, every court has agreed, they say, saying that the Watergate prosecutors were fine, and that Cannon made a mistake, that the Nixon case was dicta, saying that was an error. And they also made an error in assuming the Supreme Court decided that issue. They used qualifying language, and so she read too much into that. Now, the statutes before the Supreme Court in Nixon authorized the Attorney General to appoint a special counsel here. They did it in that case, and they can do it here. Why? Well, Section 515 consists of two subsections that, if you take it together, say that these special attorneys and special assistants are basically the same thing. Section 515B says that they can commission attorneys who are specially retained, and you can have them as special assistants, and they must take an oath. And Section 515A says that they may vest these specially appointed attorneys with power to take criminal proceedings. And so if you read that, that's basically like a special prosecutor. And so that's good enough. We can just make Jack Smith out of that one. Now, here is what Cannon said. They say Cannon was reading this wrong. Hello, Judge. Cannon was reading the word appoint. It says it's focused on the absence of the word appoint in section 515B, ignores that the term retain is basically the same thing as appoint. Because an appointment is the same thing as a retention or something. As the statute's history makes clear, they say the word appoint appears in other parts. And also Cannon saying that the phrase specially retained is a past tense verb, which means that they're already retained attorneys. And they say, no, these are past participles, and we're not going to get into the grammar of all this, but they say your grammar is wrong, Cannon. And finally, the district court erroneously treated these two provisions, 519 and 543, as a limit, and that's not appropriate either. And so Congress authorizes this. By the way, they also authorized it in the FBI section. So if we go to 533, which is one section over, or one kind of subsection down, Cannon says, I find that totally inapplicable. The district court found that this section is inapplicable on the theory that official means only non-officer employed. But official means officers, they say. So the power says you got under 533, you can appoint officials. And they say that's the same thing as officers. And so we can appoint officers. So they're just giving themselves a ton of power. And also, she is reading too much into the title. Okay. Yeah, so what if it's in the FBI section? We can still make an inference that it applies to us, the DOJ. And these sections 509 and 510 also grant the Attorney General broad power. So we can basically do whatever we want. Congress has given us full authority, and we can appoint these people. And we've done this for a long time also. From before the creation of the DOJ until the modern day, we've appointed special and independent counsels all the time. And Cannon disregarded this history. Now, the court's rationale could jeopardize the long-standing operation of the department. Oh, no. Yeah, this is great. And the decision could call into question hundreds of appointments throughout the executive branch. Yeah, perfect. That's what we want. Let's get it. Let's get it. All right, great. Yeah, you're all illegal. Get out. The DOJ is improperly funded. They say has properly funded the special counsel under our slush fund. And so Cannon has erroneously dismissed this case. We need our money and we deserve it. So here's their argument. Let's hit some of the highlights. It says, all right, as we know, Congress can vest the power in a department head. The only question here is whether Jack Smith was properly appointed. In Nixon, the Attorney General appointed a special prosecutor to investigate and prosecute the offenses from Watergate. In the Supreme Court, Nixon said that the case was not justiciable, right? There was no standing to bring this case because it was an intra-branch dispute. Supreme Court said no, it's not an intra-branch dispute. And saying that the special prosecutor acted pursuant to a proper and legally binding delegation of the AG's authority, and touches on some of these statutes. It also vested with him. And they say there, boom, that's it. Okay, that's what gives us the power. Saying Cannon erroneously determined that Nixon's reliance on that was only to subordinate officers, and the special prosecutor was dicta. They say no, this actually mattered. If the Attorney General lacked the authority to appoint a special prosecutor, the regulation there would have had no force. And so they did settle this, so they think that it matters. So the court's determination was necessary in coming to their determination. And so they're trying to really build up this Nixon case, which is a good case for them. Now let's continue on, saying even if the relevant language in Nixon were dicta, the district court was not entitled. So now they're saying, well, okay, maybe if it was, you still can't just set it aside because it was dicta. The court statement in Nixon was not subordinate clause and devoid of analysis. It was not prefatory. It should be treated as authoritative, and it's not, even if it were technically dictum, right? Because it had nothing to do with the underlying holding. And so in sum, Cannon erred in failing to treat Nixon's conclusion as controlling. Nixon was binding, and Nixon is correct. They say 515 gives them power to appoint special attorneys like special counsels, special attorneys. They can commission people. All this is done under the DOJ, and they give us some other cases. They reference back to Marbury versus Madison. This is curious. Talking about commissions and that battle. We know there was a big battle in that case over that. Now, the district court, however, read Section 515 as nothing more than a logistics-oriented statute. It was a technical and procedural statute, and it applied to already retained and other special assistants already within the DOJ. Yeah, you don't get to shoehorn in an entire special counsel statute into that one provision. Cannon focused on the word retain rather than appoint. If you want to appoint a U.S. attorney, then you have to appoint them. You don't get to use the word retain. Specially retained. They walk us through some of the history. The history confirms that it was a statute granting power to appoint. In 1870, the DOJ was a direct precursor to Section 515B, an 1870 act that established the DOJ. So a lot of history here that we'll fast forward. See what their other arguments are. You can see it's a long brief. This is going to the Court of Appeals. Trump will respond. The next subsection, 533, this is the FBI subsection. And they say this is very similar. It talks about officials, but what we're talking about are officers. So Jack is someone who can come in as an officer under the official statute of the FBI, provisions of the law. And they say that Cannon made a mistake by saying that this was in the FBI section. That can't limit this. It only can shed light on ambiguous things, but it's not ambiguous here. And these other two statutes saying that the DOJ has been vested into the power of the DOJ into one person, the AG. And the AG has broad powers to basically do whatever he wants. And so he can make changes as he considers appropriate under Section 510, and he's been doing this for a long time. He's got significant authority. The Supreme Court has said this. It follows that giving him broad authority to create these offices are reasonable. Cannon incorrectly interpreted this to other people, but this applies also to Jack Smith. The sections confirm that reading. He can perform any duty required of the office. Attorney generals have long relied on these, by the way, right? We've been doing this for a long time. The department currently consists of 23 disgusting offices, 8 sick divisions, 6 twisted bureaus, and 3 ugly boards. Wow, that's a lot. Although some of these organizational units, such as the National Security Division, were created by Congress, most were created by the AG, gross, including the Public Lands Division, the Criminal Divisions, and the Antitrust Division, the Tax Division. They just keep going. Civil Division, Executive Office, the Civil Rights Division, and so on and so forth. But Congress has repeatedly confirmed the lawfulness of this. Congress routinely enacts statutes premised on the lawful existence of all of this. And so Congress sometimes exercises its prerogatives. There have been some changes in the past, but Congress has given Merrick Garland a lot of power. And so we'll fast forward through a lot more of this. You can see it goes on and on. The sole question here is whether Congress has given the Attorney General the power to appoint a Jack. The long history says that he does. For more than 150 years, AGs have appointed special counsels to investigate this. It's a deeply rooted tradition, and they're referencing a law review article from Brett Kavanaugh. That's funny. You know what else has been a tradition for over 150 years? Not prosecuting your political opponents in America. They wrecked that one. Attorneys General appointed by special counsel, and there's a reason here, okay? Like the reason this hasn't come up before is because we haven't had any insanity like this before. In 1857, the Attorney General appointed Edwin Stanton, and he investigated other claims. Yeah, we know it's happened a lot. But the way that you're claiming that your power exists is illegal. If there's been questions about doubts of authority about special counsels, Congress should have intervened, they say. If Congress was unhappy with this, they could have intervened. They regularly appoint special counsels from within and outside the departments. Special counsels got new prominence during Watergate. Section 509 and 510 were created. Then we had the independent counsels in the wake of Watergate. Then there was the Ethics in Government Act. Then they created the independent counsel and the special prosecutor. And then those all expired. It was a big problem. Following the act's passage, they continued to appoint special counsels. Later, then the constitutionality of the Ethics in Government Act went haywire, and they appointed a bunch of people to do more investigations. Then Congress considered whether to allow that act to expire, and it did. Then they made their own rules. So Congress gave you a bunch of power, then it expired. After Congress let it expire, then the Attorney General created the regulations that currently govern themselves. And if they have that power, Congress should give it to them, right? Congress should pass a statute. Just make it very simple. They don't get to just create it. They made it Code of Federal Regulations. And the Attorney General at the time just pulled it out of their butts. Now, in the years since, Attorney Generals have continued to appoint special counsels, including many like Robert Hur, John Durham, and David Weiss, who were U.S. attorneys. John Durham was a U.S. attorney, Robert Hur was a U.S. attorney, and David Weiss were all U.S. attorneys. Jack Smith was not. Some from within the department and some brought into the department, like Jack Smith, who was not appointed. That's the difference, losers. Point that out. In the district court's view, however, this history is nothing more than a spotty picture of an ad hoc, inconsistent practice. No, the difference is very clear. Jack Smith is not a lawfully appointed U.S. attorney. John Durham was, Robert Hur was, David Weiss was. Now, to reach that conclusion, the district court attached undue weight to superficial variations in historical practice, saying that there were differences. Some people relied on certain sections, some others did not rely on those sections. But Cannon gave undue weight that some have been appointed from within the department, while others have been appointed from outside the department, using this word retained. According to Cannon, Jack Smith is a private citizen exercising the full power of a U.S. attorney, but he is not a private citizen. He's a sworn officer of the DOJ. According to your swearing in, but there's nothing in the law that says that's appropriate under the powers that you're granting him. That's the point. There was a period in American history when private citizens, by the way, they say, prosecuted some of the most consequential cases of the day. But that has not been the practice for 150 years. And to the extent that they use the term private citizen to refer to someone who is not already a member of the DOJ before receiving his commission, the definition equally applies to every member of the department and has no relevance to the Appointments Clause or to the statutes authorizing his powers. Now, Cannon likewise attached undue weight to other independence granted to other special counsels. And so the independence of Jack Smith is really irrelevant. And there was also undue weight to the nomenclature, the naming conventions. Special attorney-like figures are different than special attorneys, or the difference between special prosecutors or independent counsels or special counsels or whatever. They say, shut up, it doesn't matter. Okay, any linguistic variation between these terms is entirely superficial. Whatever, we can call them whatever we want, and we can have them do anything that they want to do. Any subtle non-semantic difference is just semantics. It has no bearing on whether Congress gave us that power. We have the power, so just eat it. Now, the district court's reasoning also needlessly cast doubt on long-standing practices in the DOJ. Yeah, because they're corrupt. They should be cast out. It suggests that every special counsel throughout history who was appointed from outside the DOJ who did not assist a U.S. attorney was invalid. Yep, bingo. That every AG who made an appointment was acting ultra vires, outside the law, that Congress repeatedly overlooked a persistent pattern of errors, and that the Supreme Court itself failed to spot the flaw in Nixon. Well, it wasn't before them. They weren't asked about it. If the Attorney General lacks the power to appoint them, the conclusion would invalidate the appointment of every member of the department who exercises significant authority and occupies a continued office. other than the few that are specially identified by statute. That's the point. If the law doesn't give you a seat, you're gone. Get out. The DOJ needs to be reined in. They did this ultra virus. There is no law that authorizes them to do this. The fact that Congress is weak and pathetic and that this has not come up before is irrelevant. That happens all the time. Provisions of the law, statutes are declared unconstitutional all the time. This is no different. Government cannot act outside of their dictated, delineated powers. At a minimum, that list includes high-ranking department positions like Deputy Solicitors General and Deputy Assistant Attorneys General. Get out. Get out. You're not lawful. You're as illegal as Jack Smith. You're not a real boy. Get out. The district court's rationale would likewise raise questions about hundreds of appointments throughout the executive branch, including the DOD, the state, the Treasury, labor. All of them are making up these statutes out of their derrieres. The implausibility of that outcome underscores why the district court's novel conclusions lack merit. I disagree. It's why it was epic, and we can't wait for it to be affirmed by the Supreme Court. They say Jack Smith also stole his money lawfully. He can steal whatever he wants. Congress gave us a permanent, indefinite appropriation. It was permanent and it was indefinite. Okay, so it's ours permanently, indefinitely, our money. That's our government. And Congress is just like, okay, that's fine. Just please don't prosecute us. Okay, we'll give you all the money in the world. The district court's conclusion depended solely on its erroneous determination that no, quote, other law supported Jack's appointment. But these sections clearly give us the power to be here. And because Judge Cannon was wrong, so was its conclusion, her conclusion. So this court should reverse this dismissal of the classified documents case, bring this case back into Judge Cannon's courtroom, and tell her to put it back on the docket. Signed by James Pierce from Jack Smith's office. Now, he's not really even a real special counsel. There should be an asterisk here, Jack. Okay, you have been deemed to be invalid, illegitimate, and Judge Cannon is the one responsible for this. And so Jack Smith will be fighting for his survival from now into the future. And Trump, of course, will be responding to this in the 11th Circuit. We're excited to see what that looks like as our coverage here continues. Now, more on this. We've got some reaction from MSNBC. Here's what Lisa Rubin had to say after this dropped. Jack Smith scrambling for his very existence.
Jack Smith has filed an appeal to get this case back on track. It's about 81 pages, excuse me. What is the argument?
Well, Katie, the argument is exactly what we expected it to be, that essentially Judge Aileen Cannon ignored Supreme Court precedent when she found that the 4 statutes that Merrick Garland had invoked in order to appoint Jack Smith did not comport with the Constitution. And in doing so, she then found that under Article 1, Section 2, both the Appointments Clause and the Appropriations Clause, there was not constitutional authority for the Attorney General to appoint Jack Smith or any other special counsel because that person was operating sufficiently independently of the Department of Justice that they should be Senate confirmed. In this brief, the thing that I was really looking for was an argument that Judge Cannon should be removed or recused from the case. I don't see that yet in the 81 pages that you just mentioned.
Nope.
But of course, we just got this a moment ago, and it will take I and others some time to parse through it.
We didn't see it either. And there were a bunch of people in there on their side saying that that was going to be the first thing. Remember, they kept saying this over and over. First of all, that Judge Cannon was out of her depths, out of the depths. Is that the phrase? She couldn't handle it, baby, because she was so young and new, and her decision to appoint a special master was wrong. Turns out it was the right decision. The DOJ corrupted so much evidence in this case. They had all the files that were shifted around and manipulated. They've got stuff missing. They've got placeholder folders. There were violations of privilege. The list and litany of problems in this case goes on. And Jack Smith was illegal in the first place. So now Jack Smith is going to continue to fight. Let's see where they say.
Watching my email, because I know we have a number of people here at NBC News and MSNBC reading through it. I want to read a little bit from it, and I'm going to ask you to translate it for me. The other provisions they cite, 28 U.S.C. and 509 and 510, they grant the Attorney General broad power, Jack Smith argues, to operate the Department of Justice. They also authorize him to appoint the special counsel in this case. Those provisions, first enacted as part of the law that created the Department of Justice, authorized the Attorney General to structure and staff the department in order to fulfill his law enforcement responsibilities. And attorneys general have long relied on sections 509 and 510 with Congress's full knowledge and approval to create the Justice Department's institutional infrastructure. And Congress has long used similar provisions to authorize other departments.
And by the way, those photos were fake also. Remember many of these were not even real. They just came and they shoved those on top of all these photos. And then they splayed all these out. And then I don't know what they were doing, but remember, there's some weird like cover up stuff happening here. This is all just, totally faked. And they tried to scare everybody with this. Let's see what she says.
Analogizing to other departments in the executive branch is a really interesting argument, because essentially they're trying to say, if you undo this and you don't allow Merrick Garland, for example, to appoint special counsels,
you won't be able
there
to
will
raid
be
your
reverberations
opponents anymore.
not only across the Department of Justice, but across the entire executive branch, where other secretaries rely on similarly worded statutes to appoint people who otherwise aren't Senate confirmed or appointed by a president to do the important work of the national government, Katie.
Oh no, the poor government is not going to have their bureaucrats. Why don't you put them through the proper procedure to hire them lawfully? You can't just make up departments out of your booty and then fill them with all your bureaucratic acolytes. There should be a process that is in comportment with the Constitution, that enables checks and balances. That's why we have this, so that Congress can actually affirm these positions. Right now, they're just making them up. There is no oversight. That's why we have a weaponization of our government. And we have people who are very immoral who just decide, well, we're just going to prosecute our political opponents and shatter 200 plus years of historical precedents on this. Tulsi Gabbard came out and officially endorsed President Trump. The Unity Party vibes continue to increase all across the fruited plain of America and the world. Now, RFK Jr. is on the Trump train, baby. Choo choo. We also have Tulsi Gabbard on the train. Choo choo. It's going good, baby. We are rocking and rolling, making our way into this new era, this new season on the campaign trail with Tulsi on board and many others soon to join. Here is what Tulsi said today about this weaponized and politicized government.
Because I am confident that his first task will be to do the work to walk us back from the brink of war. We cannot be prosperous unless we are at peace. And we can't live free as long as we have a government that is retaliating against its political opponents and undermining our civil liberties, weaponizing our very institutions against those they deem as a threat. Kamala Harris has done this over the last 3.5 years. She won't hesitate to continue that if she is elected as president. President Trump has been their first and foremost target in this because they don't want us as voters to even have the option to vote for him. I've been their most recent target, added to a secret domestic terror watch list after exposing the truth about what kind of dangers we would face if Kamala Harris is elected as president. We as Americans must stand together to reject this anti-freedom culture of political retaliation and abuse of power. We can't allow our country to be destroyed by politicians who will put their own power ahead of the interests of the American people, our freedom, and our future.
Like Tish, Jack, Fani, Alvin Bragg, all the judges who are enabling this, Judge Chutkin, Judge Mercan, Judge Kaplan.
I am proud to stand here before you today, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent, if you love our country, as I do, if you cherish peace and freedom as we do, I invite you to join me in doing all that we can to save our country and elect President Donald J. Trump and send him back to the White House to do the tough work of saving our country and serving the people. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yeah, that's Tulsi. All right, so she's right, and RFK's right, and I think what Tulsi brings is another person who can lend credibility to all of Trump's claims. The DOJ has been weaponized and rigged against him. All of the institutions that purport to bring us our democracy have all been weaponized to protect themselves against any external threats, Trump of which, of course, is the biggest. So Tulsi is now on the train. Happy to have her aboard. Welcome. We'll be keeping a close eye on how this develops, obviously. We're excited for more people to come and join the party. But Merrick Garland is warning us, right? They've got control of the mound in the game of capture of the justice system. They've got it. They've got the flag. They've got a bunch of their deputies there arresting people who challenge them in any way, indicting people for fake crimes. For example, Steve Bannon is in prison for violating a congressional subpoena, right? Uh-oh. Guess who else is violating a congressional subpoena? Oh, this guy right here, Merrick Garland. He got one from Congress and told him to shove it. I was going to say make a Tim Tampon joke or something, but that's gross. But the point is, Garland is out free. He's walking around. He's already violated a congressional subpoena. Navarro went to jail for this. Bannon is currently in jail for this. And Garland is walking around free. And he's warning you, ooh, if you try to challenge this election in 2024, we already know what they did last time. They indicted a bunch of people. Arizona had a bunch of alternate electors indicted. We had the same thing happen in Michigan, many other places. They're coming after you. So you just sit there, take those results, and just say, yes, thank you, government. Thanks for my election results. I trust you. And don't do anything about it, because they're going to preserve democracy whether you like it or not.
I guess as a follow-up on Scott's question, you're sitting in these hearings with prosecutors and judges at the courthouse down the street. They're increasingly expressing concerns about the upcoming transfer of power and the potential danger of another January 6th. Do you share those concerns at all?
I think our prosecutions have made clear what we think about people who try to interfere with the peaceful transfer of power, which is an essential and fundamental element of our democracy. I quibble about whether we have 1,500 or slightly less than 1,500, but we have way more than 1,400 now prosecutions.
Wow, good for
we have
you
a
guys.
substantial number of convictions. I think that's shown to everybody how seriously we take an effort to interfere with the peaceful transfer of power. The last January 6th, the coming January 6th, and every January 6th after that. I want to make clear to anybody who is thinking about interfering with that, they can see what we've done with...
Hey, he's talking to you, FBI and HSI agents. I think. Or maybe he's not talking to you. I think he's talking to everybody else. So that's right, because he wants you guys to create another ruckus just like you did on January 6th. So I guess HSI agents, he's not talking to you. You guys are excluded. FBI agents, you guys are excluded. Guys like Ray Epps, who are there, are going to be instigating this whole thing. You guys are excluded. Everybody else, though, pay attention.
With respect to the January 6th prosecutions, and the Justice Department will continue to protect our democracy.
Yeah, okay, except when it requires bringing the National Guard out, like Donald Trump suggested, and was rejected by Mayor Muriel Bowser that day. Like when Stephen Sund, the former Capitol Hill chief of police, when he wrote that book, where he explained that Nancy Pelosi gave him the FU button multiple times. Not answering the phone call. Almost like they wanted it to happen so that they could have justification to impeach Trump. And then if that didn't happen, then they could use that event to castigate him for the next time he ran, just like they're doing today. So we're going to be here continuing to cover this, my friends. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. Thanks for considering becoming a member and for joining us back here when we go live on the next one. Now, we're not done yet, though. We're going to turn our attention over to Georgia Fani Willis continues to fight for her very existence on the Trump case. She was excited to be on this case because she was making a bunch of money for her lover, Nathan Wade, who is no longer on the case. He got disqualified after we learned that they were indicting each other all over the world. Places like Belize, Napa Valley, all over Georgia, multiple locations. They had long working lunches together. Don't know if they've desanitized any of those buildings. But Nathan Wade has been disqualified, and Fani is demanding an appeal, saying that the lower level court really should be reversed, that Fani did nothing wrong. She's totally in the right. If she grifted $700,000 off for her lover, well, that's what justice requires. And don't be a racist bigot also. And say her name properly, okay? It's called Fani, not Fanny, okay? Just to be clear. Don't want to be racist. So here's what Trump's defense attorney, Steve Sadow, had to say about this when he filed his appellate brief. It says, here's my statement as the lead counsel for President Trump in the Fulton County, Georgia case. It says, President Trump's legal team has filed a reply brief in the Georgia Court of Appeals, persuasively, I'll say, rebutting, and that is like, combating. I know we're talking about Fani, so when we say the word rebut here, I know it's confusing, but it means like pushing back on the state's argument. Now, the brief makes clear that Fani Willis should be disqualified, and this case should be dismissed because of her proven false, incendiary racial rhetoric. Remember, why, God? Why did they choose the black man? The church speech was calculated intentionally to heighten public condemnation of and thereby prejudice Trump and the co-defendants in the eyes of the jurors in Georgia. Such misconduct violated the rules of professional conduct, and therefore, President Trump again calls for the dismissal and the removal of Big Fani Willis, the biggest Fanny in Georgia. She likes Grey Goose and she keeps cash under her mattress. So you know who she is. Don't you forget it. Here is the interlocutory appeal. We're in the middle of the Trump prosecution brought by Big Fani Willis, the biggest Fanny in Fulton County. She submitted this as an appeal. And what we have here is the reply brief from President Donald John Trump. Now, I think both sides are appealing this. Bunch of appeals happening. So we're here reading Trump's reply. And here's what it tells us. When we scroll past the table of contents, we're going to see very meticulously organized. Well done, Mr. Sadow. And this table of authorities looks beautiful as well. We're continuing past those until we get to the beginning, where defense attorney for Donald Trump, Steve Sadow, tells us, all right, listen. Your Honor, Big Fanny's argument should be deemed abandoned. Okay, it's terrible. She's let it go, like her prosecutor's office and her social life. Says the state's standing argument should be deemed abandoned. We have standing. And alternatively, by the way, Trump was aggrieved by Willis's church speech, and that's a severe violation of Georgia's rules of professional conduct. So we are supposed to be here. Don't say that we don't have standing. Let this case move forward. Trump's defense says, all right, Your Honor, Big Fanny's ephemeral reference to standing fails for two reasons. First, she didn't cite any authority. And if there's no local authority, then that's an abandoned argument. She didn't cite her sources. Got to do that. And second, Trump was aggrieved by the trial court's failure to disqualify Fani because McAfee's a weenie, and suffered adverse personal impact from Willis's church speech. Trump was harmed. Scott McAfee, the judge, knew it, but couldn't do it because he had to get reelected. And they were in the middle of a tense primary season, and lo and behold, he's going to be okay. So a party, they say, has standing. Okay, Trump has standing to be here when it has suffered an adverse impact to its own rights. And to have standing, it's when there's a violation of the rules. In this case, it's rules of professional conduct. And that is sufficiently severe here to talk about the need for justice. Now, President Trump has unquestionably substantiated Fani's violation of the rules, her rules of professional conduct, saying the opening brief explained why Willis's speech did not serve a legitimate law enforcement purpose. Why she was out there saying, why, God, did they target me and not the white man? Well, it's because you weren't sleeping with the white man, Fani. And why the language Willis used had a substantial likelihood of heightening public condemnation. Now, the state's response from Fani's office does not even dispute the trial court's finding. Judge McAfee did confirm that the church speech was legally improper. Willis's intention and her intentional injection of false allegations of racism into this high-profile case was undoubtedly severe enough to call into question the fair and efficient administration of justice. Because Fani was bringing a personal component to this, and she had to save her own skin, right? She was not really focused on the interest of justice in the case, more focused on staying on the case, her political future, protecting her lover, Nathan Wade, and other things. Willis's improper allegations of racism, says Trump's defense, are especially pernicious in the administration of justice. A prosecutor shouldn't be doing that. They're supposed to be independent and neutral. Courts recognize that few forms of prejudice are so virulent as being called a racist. It's a big deal. So much so that state and federal courts observe that there are structural implications when a prosecutor appeals to a racial bias, right? If a prosecutor comes out and starts hinting to a jury panel of one color about the defendant who's another color, starts making all these statements and things, huge no-no, right? You can vacate the conviction. The whole thing goes away. Don't even imply it. It's called serious prosecutorial misconduct. Requires the reversal irrespective of the harm. That's how bad it is. Willis used that, exactly. She wrongfully labeled the defendants, Trump and their attorneys, as racists. That's about as severe as it gets. And moreover, Judge, Fani's speech remark that she said that the prosecution of Trump, that she was doing God's work, shattered the presumption of innocence. God's at my back, and I know that we're going to persevere. And it shifted the burden of proof. And it said that basically the other side, I guess, is Satan or the devil. Burden shifting has resulted in plain error. So we start with the presumption of innocence, and if she's going to say she's on God's side, then that means that the other side is clearly guilty already. That inverts the equation. All of this was implicated by Fani's speech. And this is serious enough to call into question her judgment. And pretermitting fairness, Trump was injured by Willis's legally improper speech because the news media took it. And they reported Willis's claim as an attack on the defense. Willis falsely declared that the allegations against her stemmed from racism. She blamed racism. They were true, though. She obviously intended that every potential Fulton County juror who heard or read her racist speech should label the defense as racists. But the state came back and they said, no. Fani wasn't calling you racist. Don't be silly. The interpretation of the speech from the government was that Willis was being vague. And we didn't even know who she was referring to. She could have been talking about anybody, not Trump. That's disingenuous at best. Her purpose was plain. She tried to obscure her misconduct by falsely accusing the defense of racism. Her strategic use of pronouns was neither innocuous or vague. Willis repeatedly used them and they and linked these terms to her antagonists, which are white male Republicans. The only white male Republicans included in Willis's perception of God's work were President Trump and other defendants, those white male Republicans. Now, contrary to the state's attempt to elevate form over substance, so many others, plural, could not refer only to Roman, which is singular, right? To one person. Well, they were talking to somebody who already took a plea deal, so it didn't matter. Here's what the Washington Post wrote about Big Fani. They said Sunday was the first time Willis had been seen in public since Michael Roman's motion. Kenneth Chesebro took a plea deal. Michael Roman did not. Michael Roman was the person with Ashley Merchant, the co-defendant, who submitted this, really cracked the lid on this whole thing. Shout out to those two. Her appearance at Big Bethel AME as part of a special Sunday service, Willis entered the sanctuary and gave her speech, right? So that's what the Washington Post said. Now, she used these terms as insidious and calculated references to Trump. She knew, Fani knew what she was doing, and she got precisely the reaction she wanted. The media came out, and they were just throwing a fit over this, how happy they were. News of her was all over the place. The media regurgitated and republished her false and her pernicious subterfuge. She slandered these defendants before the entire nation. And she knew this was going to happen. She calculated this result despite her duty to protect the presumption of innocence. That's her sworn obligation. Despite due process and despite the requirement to provide for a fair trial. Now, this court has held that individuals criticized in grand jury reports suffer injury to personal rights. And that applies equally to individuals who are not named directly, but who are a part of a criticized group. And therefore, we have standing. Under any theory, there was a severe violation of the rules of professional conduct. Trump has standing from that as well. Now, there was also forensic misconduct here, Your Honors. Fani's reliance on this case and this dissent is at odds with the precedent that exists in this jurisdiction. They said, let's be clear about this. Fani's comments and her speech and her courtroom behavior, they were flagrant violations of her ethical duties. They were intentionally wielded in direct contravention of the rules of professional conduct. These were presumptively innocent defendants who maintain that presumption, and she did all of this for personal and political gain. If you sidestep these damaging facts to try to do that, the state is trying to narrow the law. It incorrectly restricts Williams, which is another decision, as McAfee did, to reach only comments on the guilt of the accused. So they're misreading this case, says Sadow. Now, according to Fani, so long as it refrains from saying the defendant is guilty, a prosecutor can do anything she wants, no matter how defamatory, unethical, or widely reported it is, because it is a sufficient cure for the harm, because time is a sufficient cure for the harm. The state contends this court is without recourse to punish the prosecutor and just must disregard it, because the case is not going to be happening soon. Well, she can call them racist, but like 6 months are going to go by, and then everybody's going to forget about that. Sadow says, no, that's nonsense. There's three problems with this. First, that case and the prior precedent don't require prejudice, don't even need to show that. Even if it were required, the state ignores that they're biased prosecutors, which is pretty clearly prejudice, and the Billings dissent has no persuasive value at all. Justice Billings, in fact, endorsed a pretrial prejudice standard that's easily met here. And so this prior precedent does not require prejudice to disqualify Fani, right? Fani is saying you can only get rid of me if there's a really big problem, if there's prejudice towards the defendant, and there's no prejudice towards the defendant here, no ultimate, real long-term harm to him or the case. And so I can stay on this case. Even if I violated the ethical rules, it doesn't harm him in a prejudicial way. They say, wait. The insistence that disqualification is limited to comments regarding the guilt of the accused or misconduct that prejudices Trump is foreclosed by numerous cases. Sadow is saying the standard is not that high. And he gives us a bunch of cases that explain that. No, it says trial courts may disqualify attorneys for violations of disciplinary rules. It doesn't have to be the higher standard of prejudice. You just violate the rules. Sanctions are appropriate and other things. Neither cases, nor the Williams case, requires prejudice. Williams analyzed the ethical rules and considered the facts and circumstances. Williams then explained that improper prosecutorial statements can create a conflict of interest and can constitute forensic misconduct. Now, first, Williams clarified improper comments can show a personal interest, and that could be a problem, and they may constitute disqualifying misconduct if you look at the motive and the intent behind the statements. Now, Williams did not hold that a trial court is prohibited from or lacks discretion to disqualify prosecutors, not at all. In fact, instead, that case pointed to each factor and said that in that case, they were not so bad that we should disqualify that person. But they could. In that case, they weren't bad enough. But here, they clearly are. The state accepts the finding that Willis's speech was not inadvertent. It was not a mistake. She had it written out. When viewed together, she brought up race. She evinced a calculated plan. She went out and said it specifically. The state argues that, quote, find me the votes, and Willis's slew of other national comments have no connection to Trump. No connection, says Steve Sadow. The connection is Willis's repeated public display of racial animus towards Trump, wielded together by defense attorneys, says the state, to overstate the appeal. Overstated, courts across the nation go to tremendous lengths to keep racial considerations out of the system. Yet it was Willis who welded together this theme by consistently and publicly injecting racism into the case. And they concede Williams' first two factors also. The only issue is whether she intentionally injected racism into this case. Of course she did. She's the elected DA of Fulton County. News outlets follow her every move. She intentionally injected false racist claims in a black church before black jurors who were celebrating MLK Jr. blocks away from where he lived his entire life in Fulton County. Yeah. Calling, white guys racist, basically there. Seems like that might be a forum where that message will resonate. Willis calculated and deliberately planned to prejudice Trump and these co-defendants through unethical, racially charged media comments that clearly require her disqualification. Now, given the structural concerns that we've noted already, including the intentional injection of racist comments, this was one of the most severe violations of the rules. Prosecutors don't have carte blanche to engage in improper commentary, and when a lawyer's conduct is inimical to the integrity of the justice system, courts must correct the wrong and send a message that this is not going to be tolerated. Now, they say most respectfully, it is important for the record to reflect that Fani, who is falsely claiming Trump and other appealing defendants are racist, is also black. It's important for the record to know Fani's black. Now, tellingly, the state does not even attempt to respond to Trump's argument that Willis's legally improper speech violated her rules of conduct because they can't. Significantly, those rules does not sound in actual or even presumed prejudice. Doesn't have anything about prejudice in there. It states a prosecutor, here's the rule for Fani, a prosecutor must refrain from making extrajudicial comments that have a substantial likelihood of heightening public condemnation of the accused. The purpose of the rule is to safeguard the integrity of the system, to guard against prejudice from a prosecutor's out-of-court statements. In today's climate, a widely disseminated statement by Big Fani falsely labeling Trump a racist in a historic black church on MLK's birthday is obviously designed to heighten public condemnation. The rules say you can't do that. Guess what? She did. The mere verbal rebuke of Willis by the trial court, by the judge, McAfee, was utterly insufficient, okay? It demanded disqualification. And that's why we call McAfee a big weenie, because it was pathetic. It happened in his own courtroom, and he just sat there and took it. If prejudice were required, they say the state also ignores that there was pretrial prejudice, by the way, saying that in these other cases there were improper statements, but even if the court accepts the state's incorrect argument about requiring prejudice, there are reasons fully applicable here. There is pretrial prejudice from the mere presence and the participation of a biased prosecutor. She was a rigged prosecutor. That's prejudice. There's other case law that show that. No more is required from there. But nevertheless, the state says that Williams, that prior case, must have imported its views onto this other case. But there's no evidence that that happened either in that other case. The dissent that they're placing their case on, relying on, is not even any good. Justice Billings used disjunctive phrases permitting disqualification where there's a potential for prejudice. And it's about protecting defendants. And it would not require a showing of actual or likely harm, right? The standard's much lower. Here, Even with Hill's reasonable potential for prejudice pretrial standard, it's easily met, even if you use that standard. There was nationwide slanderous media coverage on every network. Appellants have shown that there was not only a real chance, but a suitable probability that there's going to be unfair treatment in the trial process. And Willis placed herself within 2 disqualification categories proposed by the dissent. She was a biased prosecutor, and she was a prosecutor with personal financial political interest. Those are big problems. Unlike the distinction in other cases, Willis was engaged in a re-election campaign when she made her speech, when she participated in the book Find Me the Votes, when she testified and lied unprofessionally in court. She's repeatedly commented to the media. Willis falsely told churchgoers that Trump was racist and the attorneys were racist. She said, I was doing God's work, that she was acting ethically, and that the allegations against her were untrue. No, they were all true. Willis thereby tied her personal and political interest to these proceedings specifically, and she publicly commented about them too. Now, McAfee found that the effect of Willis's MLK speech was to cast racial aspersions. He said that Big Fani had a stinky odor of mendacity. Woo! Yeah, you can imagine. Lingered over Willis and Wade's disqualification testimony, an odor of mendacity. And that Willis exhibited a tremendous lapse in judgment and acted unprofessionally in court. Then he said, well, it's okay, you can stay on the case, no problem. Willis deliberately chose to, quote, play the race card in a calculated effort to bring public condemnation upon the defendants, to deflect public attention away from herself. Even to this day, Willis shows no remorse. Says, they don't want me to talk about race, but I'm going to talk about it anyways, because the people in Georgia apparently love themselves some more Fani. There is no clear demarcation line between the conflict of interest and forensic misconduct. Now, whether this court focuses on Willis's playing the race card to increase public condemnation, her unprofessionalism, her stinky odor of mendacity, the outcome is the same. Fani must be disqualified. She flagrantly violated the rules of Georgia Rules of Professional Conduct. She did it in a calculated manner, and she did it egregiously. Willis must therefore be disqualified. And so, therefore, President Trump respectfully requests this court to vacate, in part, the order denying his motion to disqualify the prosecutor, and remand this case to the trial court with instructions that this entire indictment be dismissed, gone, or alternatively, that Big Fani Willis and her office be disqualified from further participations in this proceeding. Respectfully submitted by Steve Sadow, defense attorney extraordinaire for President Trump. Joined by Jennifer L. Little, shout out, and Matthew K. Winchester, shout out. Nice filing from the team to Big Fani Willis. And so Fani is now going to be having to answer to this in the Georgia Court of Appeals. I do believe there are oral arguments that are scheduled. We'll make sure we have coverage of the next steps here when the time drops. But that is Sadow and Fani fighting for her existence in Georgia. Now, we have more coming out of Georgia because there was this from Rahul Bali, is now saying that as it pertains to the election, we had a new Georgia decision. A judge says that Robert F. Kennedy, Claudia de la Cruz, and the Georgia Green Party, which nominated Jill Stein, are not going to be on the ballot in Georgia. So election is coming up real soon. Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger is going to make these decisions ultimately, but it looks like we're not going to have Kennedy or some of these other people on the ballots in Georgia, which will be curious to see how this continues on now that Kennedy is getting off the ticket in some of those swing states, Georgia being one of those. So when the election comes, will Georgians vote for Trump or will they vote for the candidate that met with Big Fani Willis, which will be the Kamala Harris people at the White House? We'll see. Now, Trump was out there today. Trump was out and about. He was at a Vietnamese restaurant hanging out with this guy called Hung Cao from this Vietnamese restaurant. This is a sight to see. Trump making the rounds, hanging out, making America great again, and enjoying an afternoon with our friends at this, I think it's a Vietnamese restaurant.
You know, somehow, I don't know what it is, you'll have to explain it, but the Vietnamese community loves me and I love them. You know? It's been very special. In Florida, we go down, we have large groups of people, always dressed perfectly with the red and the silver. And I said, you're the most beautiful dressers I've ever seen. But it's a great honor to be with you, and congratulations on your success. Tremendously successful woman, right? So congratulations, and it's really an honor to be with you. Thank you. And we're going to be with this man. This is a great gentleman. I love his name, Hung Kao. I love that name. And that name alone should get you elected, right?
That's a good name.
But more importantly,
Nice, strong name.
actually, he's tremendous. He's tremendous. He ran a great primary campaign. I endorsed him very early, and he did very well. And we think he's got a very good chance of winning for the Senate. And I really believe it. I hope your community gets out and really supports him like 100%, because you can win. You can win, definitely win. Yep. And we're looking to win the state, and I think we will win the state. We're looking at polls that are showing us with a lead in the state, which is traditionally not necessarily for Republicans, but I'm not the average Republican.
Exactly, sir.
And neither are you. And so, please, would you like to say a few words?
Dạ, xin chào quý vị, cảm ơn quý vị tới đây bữa nay không thiệt là hãnh diện để represent người Mỹ gốc Việt. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored to represent the Vietnamese American community. Next year is the 50th anniversary of the fall of Saigon, and we'll have the first Vietnamese American U.S. Senator on the anniversary. So thank you for President Trump.
All right, so Trump.
Make America great again!
And you know what you just said is actually very important, the first. And you should be the first. And it's time that you had somebody. So
All right, let's go, Trump. Hanging out with our friends from Vietnam, and we've got some other updates in Georgia. You can see Trump is doing some campaigning. We also had a new campaign ad which dropped. This one was clipped over from End Wokeness, who does some nice work over on the X platform. Should be following this person if you haven't already. And he shared this was a nice video ad that just came out from the Trump team, I do believe, and paid for by Donald Trump. It's showing Kamala Harris having a difficult time debating against herself. Oh.
Everyday prices are too high. Food, rent, gas, back to school clothes. That is called Bidenomics. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today. Ground beef is up almost 50%. There's not much left at the end of the month. Bidenomics is working. The price of housing has gone up. It feels so hard to just be able to get ahead. And we are very proud of Bidenomics.
All right, so nice ad from the Trump team. It's Kamala versus herself. And here's some more from this Vietnamese event where Trump is asked about the upcoming debate. We talked about this morning on our Members Only stream on YouTube and on Locals when we're talking about 2024 stuff, a bunch of stuff that we can't get to here. We've been talking about it in the mornings for our Membos. But a big kerfuffle's happening right now about the debate because Kamala is trying to change the rules. Remember, she came down and criticized Trump when he said, wait a minute, I already agreed to a debate with Joe Biden. And they said, what's the difference? So shut up and come over to ABC and talk to George Slopadopoulous with us. And then he said, okay, fine, relax, lunatics. Fine, we'll come do the debate. It's fine. Then she says, we're going to change all the rules. And then her reaction is when Trump says, you can't change the rules, it said, well, we never made a deal with you in the first place. That was Biden's deal. So they're like children, basically, who don't even remember what they said minutes ago. But I think we know the truth here. Kamala Harris can't debate. She can't talk in an impromptu manner. If she could, then she would have done it already. But she can't, so she doesn't. And every day that goes by, it's just going to make it that much more awkward when she has to come out and actually talk to somebody. And rumors are that she's going to sit down with her governor pal, Walz. And Megyn Kelly had a great line on this, said that Kamala is going to sit down with her emotional support governor, I think was the line. Her emotional support governor, which is just great. That's why she's Megyn Kelly, obviously. So here's Trump, got asked about it. Here's his response to the debate. Kamala's dumb. She's just not going to show up, obviously.
Do you still plan to participate in the ABC debate?
Well, you know, I watched this weekend, and it's the worst of all networks. George Slopadopoulos and all of the different people. And the worst. And they had this Jonathan Karl, who's a lightweight, and he was asking questions of Tom Cotton, who was fantastic, by the way. Only a total pro could have gotten through that interview. And I watched that group talk up to Biden about vanilla ice cream, and then I watched the way they went after Tom Cotton, and Tom Cotton handled it like easy. But when you see the level of hatred in that room, and when you see Jonathan Karl, who's terrible, I mean, he's just terrible. He's just an average person. But they tell him what to do. And then when you look at the roundtable they had, which was Donna Brazile, wasn't she the one that gave Hillary Clinton the questions when she was at CNN? Maybe?
Yeah, the fake questions.
Right?
It's all rigged.
Donna Brazile gave the questions. You know that, right? That was her. I'm looking. I said, I haven't seen her in a long time, but she's the one that gave the questions to a debate to Hillary Clinton, Crooked Hillary. And when I look at that, and I looked at, there was some other, a blonde woman, I have no idea who she was. The level of hostility was incredible. And Reince was in there, but he was a little bit softer than he should be, to be honest with you. But when I looked at the hostility of that, I said, why am I doing it? Let's do it with another network. I want to do it. You know, I won because of debates. Ask Biden. But I won because of debates. I want to do debates. But she, the head of ABC, is her comrade's best friend. You know that, right? They like the husbands and the whole thing. What kind of a deal is that? I want to have a fair debate. And you know, they can ask me tough questions. I don't mind. I think I've heard them all from you. I hear them every day.
That's the nice
but
thing
I
about
think it's
practice.
very unfair. The single worst network for unfairness, I think, worse than CNN, worse than NBC, which is really hard to believe. And CBS is probably the best of the group. Fox is the best, but of the other side. So as to your question, I think it's disgraceful, and I think ABC is a disgrace. I think having Donna Brazile sitting on that panel, and she's the one that gave the answers and the questions to Hillary Clinton before a debate, I think ABC should be shut out. I'd much rather do it on NBC. I'd much rather do it on CBS, frankly. I think CBS is very unfair, but the best of the group. And certainly I'd do it on Fox. I'd even do it on CNN. I thought CNN treated us very fairly the last time. I think Jake Tapper was very fair, and Dana Bash was very fair. But when I watched this interview of Tom Cotton, fortunately he's a total pro, he knows what he's doing. And then when I watched the roundtable after that, I said the hostility is crazy. So we're thinking about it. We're thinking about it. They also want to change the rules. You know, the deal was we keep the same rules. Now all of a sudden they want to make a change in the rules.
Yeah, how come? Because they want
because she can't answer questions. Why doesn't she do a couple of question answer? Why doesn't she do something like I'm doing right now? She can't talk. We can't have another dummy as a president.
No.
Okay, we cannot have a dummy.
No, we already
and
have
the
3.5
people
years.
from Vietnam agree with that.
President Trump, would you want the microphones muted in the debate whenever you're not speaking?
We agreed to the same rules. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably on. But the agreement was that it would be the same as it was last time. In that case, it was muted. I didn't like it the last time, but it worked out fine. I mean, ask Biden how it worked out. It was fine.
It was great.
And I think it should be the same. We agreed to the same rules. Same rules and same specifications.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what it should be. But they're trying to change it. The truth is they're trying to get out of it.
Yeah,
because
obviously.
she doesn't want to debate. She's not a good debater. She's not a smart person.
No.
She doesn't want to debate.
No.
But when I looked at the hostility during the weekend, you watch it. This week with George Slopadopoulos, And the Vietnamese didn't get that one. You got it, right?
Yes, sir.
If you didn't get it, I couldn't leave questions. But no, we want to have fairness. We have to bring fairness back to the country.
All right, so yeah, and if Kamala has a problem with anything that Trump is saying, then she can just come out and talk to the media too, okay? She can go out, get a little autograph book, and go hang out with some other people and just explain it to the media. But she can't do it because she's Kamala Harris. She's a fake candidate who was promoted and created because they were tired of Joe Biden. She's the only thing they have left. And so they're making her into something that they want her to be. But truth will be revealed. She can't hide who she is forever. Maybe she can. They'll try. But we're going to be here to continue to expose her. And we're liking that Trump every day is out there rubbing her face in it. She could come out and talk. What is it? Day 35, day 36, day 37. Clock keeps ticking. Kamala keeps hiding. We're going to be here to continue to cover this, my friends. Thank you for joining us as we do. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We'd love it if you did. We're super close to that big number. That's a lot of fun. We're excited about that. Thanks for helping us get there. We, of course, are going to be back here for more live streams. We'd love to see you here. So once again, thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing this channel with a friend or family member. And we'll look forward to seeing you both back here on the next one. All right, we're done here, my friends. We got some good stuff on the day. Two nice new fresh filings. One from one going to the 11th Circuit after Judge Eileen Cannon dismissed the Florida classified documents case. Jack Smith scrambling to stay alive. I am a real boy. No, you're not, Jack. And we also saw Steve Sadow bringing it to Big Fani in Georgia. And so now, my friends, let's see what you have to say about this before we go on over to our members only after party. YouTube friends, grab the Telegram link. If you go to your private members only community post section, YouTube friends, grab the Telegram link. We'll see you on Telegram for the members only after party. And we got some great comments in the house. What's going on? Sergeant GPS says, I posted this in the comments too, so you can skip reading that one. But I'm excited for the official Tulsi endorsement that happened today. The team is getting bigger. What's up, Sergeant GPS in the house? You're right about that. Yeah, I know there's some skepticism about Tulsi and about RFK. I understand it. I get it. And we all are a little bit skittish from the last term, right, when we had some pretty bad actors who made their way inside the Trump team and then really, I think, caused a lot of havoc in there. So we're all keeping our eye on it, but I think that this is a little bit of a different flavor. Like, we know who Tulsi is. She's not hiding under the radar. Like, we know who RFK is. Mostly, right, on both of them. Like, they've been pretty transparent about who they are, why they're joining the team. I think the nefarious thing that we have happen is when somebody claims they're something and they're not who they say they are. They're going to come in and make America great again. And they come in and they're really, secret Democrats. There's that risk here, but we don't presume that Tulsi and RFK are like diehard Republicans. We know they're not. So I think it's much less of a nefarious act. You know what I'm saying? But I agree. I think it's pretty interesting. And I'd like to see more people come through. Tulsi and RFK, I think, bring another layer of credibility, and they minimize Trump's extremism, right? If Trump is plus 10 extremist, according to some people, RFK brings that down -2. Tulsi brings that down -2. You bring in some others, it brings it down. All of a sudden, you have this group of people who are all getting on board, and it seems like it's good momentum, good energy that direction. Hey, Crash is here. Says the 11th Circuit map shows Florida, Alabama, Georgia. Hopefully there are at least some judges in the circuit that still honor their oath over politics. God help us otherwise. We'll see. Yeah, and if anything, it's going to go to the Supreme Court. So this case will definitely not happen before the election. And in that case, even after the election, if Trump wins, it's probably dead anyways. So it's going to be fun. Yeah, I'm excited about where this case is going. And I want to see what Judge Chutkan does with it too, because now we're going to have a circuit split. Because Jack is still, according to Judge Chutkan in D.C., he's still a real boy over there. but we know he's not. Knox says, happy National Dog Day, everyone. What's up? Look at this handsome pup. Says, if we are lucky enough to have or have had a pup in our lives, we know it is a day well deserved. My life would have been far too lonely to walk through at times without dogs. Look at this real handsome pup. Oh, hello. So beautiful. Look fabulous. You look fabulous. Hey, take a picture of me like you take pictures of your French girls, he says. Okay. Very, very handsome pup right there. Thank you for that. Beautiful is a female, right? She looks just outstandingly and beautiful. Look at this, beautiful. What a princess. Handsome and beautiful. Hey, Catania. What's up, Catania? Thanks for bringing in a reminder to smash that like button. Hey, it's the Munkets. Tony Hay Munkets is bringing in 10 new members. What's up, Tony Hay? Good to see you, brother. Bringing in Steve Clark, welcome. James Butler's in the house. Mr. Trump Train coming in. We got Catania Nana Dampe. We got Loki Mischievous, Charles Hooser, Bill Streets, Frank Carone, and Rob Price, gifted membos, courtesy of Tony Hay of Munkets. Hey, John Gonzer, what's up? We got 9 months as a membo. You know what that means? It's a new baby in the house. That's full term. We went full term there, John. Thanks for being here for a full one, man. Woo, it's a long time. That's a full baby. It's a long time since we've been here together. Thanks, John. It's going to be a soccer player. Hey, this one comes in, says, did you call? Did you call? I guess this is a Butler. This is from James Butler. What's up, James? I guess that's a gif. Hey, James Butler, what's up? 10 membos. 10 membos coming in courtesy of James Butler. What's up, James? Bringing in Albert White, bringing in Rocco Rockwell, bringing in Mexican Marauder, bringing in Hope Rising. What's up? God's Warriors here. Yo. We got Gypsy, Simon Crossland, What About Me, Brian Evans, gifted membos courtesy of James Butler in the house. Here's the gift. Here's the gift from our friend, Donut Mind Me. Hey, what's up? Inception Web says, Rob, hey, Rob, we are back from our trip in Vegas. Woo, man, that was fun. My son was so stoked about your mention on your channels. I really appreciate you did that for him. He made a video he wanted you to check out for a special thanks. You're kidding me. Oh my goodness. He's on YouTube and he made us a video. Well, I guess we better play this puppy. All right, let's get it queued up. All right, my friends, this is from a channel called Logan Bro 417. Made us a special video for all of our watcher friends out here in the interwebs. And in fact, here it is queued up. What's up, Logan Bro in the house? All right, here's the video and here's the channel. Obviously, you're going to want to go check this out once you watch this video.
Hi, guys. I'm very happy right now because we just hit 108 subscribers.
Yes!
Now, I want to give a really special shout out to all of you right now. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. It really made my day to check, and I had 108 subscribers.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
And I want to give a super special shout out to Robert Govea.
Oh, man.
He shouted me out on his podcast, and it helped me gain a lot of subscribers. So I want to give a super special shout out to Rob. Thank you, Robert Govea. Well, guys, I'm super happy. We have a new club called 1K Club. So if you subscribe past 100, don't worry, you're still in the club. Well, thank you guys so much. Logan Bro out.
Heck yeah, Logan Bro. Man, that is a great video. That is a really good video. That presentation, that delivery, the communication is just excellent. I can see this is going to be going places very quickly. Logan Bro, thanks for the shout out, brother. Man, we're happy to see you grow, and I'm happy to see you doing so well. This is awesome. I can't wait to keep checking back on you and see how this is going. We're going to be sharing your channel again, of course. I know there's going to be a bunch of other people out there in the watcher community who are going to be excited to share your channel, maybe even with their kids, so that they can follow along and partake in your growth to the next level. Shout out to Logan, bro. And what's up? Thank you for that. Inception Web. Hope you guys had a great trip in Vegas. Thanks for sharing that out. Thanks for shouting out our community here. We're happy to be a part of this beautiful journey. Logan, bro, 417 in the house. Just crushing out there. There we go. Donut. Thank you, Donut, for clipping and for sharing that link. What a beautiful message. Thank you, Logan, bro. Keep up the great work, brother. We'll check back in, see how you're doing. And thank you, Inception Web, for sharing that with us. Hey, V is Never Silent is here. What's going on? V is Never Silent. We had this one from V. Says, did you see RFK's sister denied her brother's existence? Yeah, we played that from Carrie Kennedy. She was like frothing at the mouth today. Her eyes were like she was furious reading her little script. Called him fake, talked about the E. Jean Carroll thing. Yeah, it's TDS, full on display, full dementia, TDS in Kennedy treason fashion. I was embarrassed for her and the family members that she mouthpieces for. Blows my mind. Well, they're Democrats over family, right? You're a Democrat first, you're a blood relative second. So take your jab or you're not seeing your grandkids ever. What? Take it, or else you're dead to me. I'm your mother. Not anymore, you're not. Fauci's my mother now. Yeah. All right, so Knox, what's up? Says, we all know of a real Jack, and that would be the late, great Jack Knox. Baptized the Jack, buried as a Jack, the real deal. Authentically Jack Knox, baby. Look at that. What a nice homage and tribute. Rest in peace, Jack Knox, Nancy Knox. Man, you know they're up there having a good time together. Just enjoying blissful eternity up in heaven. It's so good up there. It's going to be great. All right, Jack Knox, shout out. Nancy Knox, shout out. Knox Bierman, defense attorney in Texas, shout out. John L. Smith, fake prosecutor, no shout outs for you. What's up, Knox says, this is our commemorative brick at the cradle in Evanston, Illinois. My dad was adopted in 1927 and yours truly in 1958. Oh, wait. Oh, that's you, Nancy Knox. You're not dead yet. All right, sorry about that. All right, I didn't understand what I was looking at. I thought that was maybe your mom and dad or something. But, all right, so, all right, you get the point. It's a tribute. It's honor. I'm honoring. I thought there was somebody who was, anyways. All right, I kind of goofed that. I should have read these in the correct order. Knox, we're glad you're alive, though. Sorry I said you were dead. I didn't see that. All right, so shout out to Jack Knox. May he rest in peace. And shout out to Nancy Knox. Long live Nancy. Only to be with us for a long time until we're all reunited together in heaven. All right, there we go. Fixed it a little bit. Sorry about that, Knox. Hey, what's up? We got 5 membos coming in, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkett's in the house. We got Gloria B is coming in. Jeffrey Jordan is here. Rhonda Bennett, welcome. Pat Hacker's in the house. And Betsy, gifted membos, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkett's. And Sheila Pooh, a million hugs to you. Thanks for bringing in. Thanks for bringing in 5 more membos. Sheila, what a great day. It's nice to see you. Says Bill Wade is coming in. Patricia Freddle's here. John Smith got a membo. Brad Nash got a membo, and Not Gullible coming in, courtesy of Sheila Pooh. A million hugs to you. This old guy says, all right, cop pulls a car over for speeding. Cop says, do you have a driver's license? Driver says, no. He says, what's your name? He says, Jack Smith. He says, yeah, sure it is. Faker. It's John. Liar. It's Wendy Donnelly. Hey, it's Wendy Donnelly. What's up, Wendy Donnelly? Look at this. Wendy, you're not even a membo, and you gifted 10 membos. That's just a lot of fun. Michael O'Grady's coming in, courtesy of Wendy. Mrs. Hayes. We got Daryl Railing. Bobby's in the house. Tyler Graff. Kazzy B. Mr. T. Big Dog Mama. And Chaz G. Gifted membos, courtesy of Wendy Donnelly in the house. Thank you, Wendy, for bringing in new membos without even being a membo. Richard Bond is here, says, I would think that Jack Smith would throw this one, as if he only loses this one, he's ahead. If he loses this one, he loses them all. Seems really risky. Yeah, I see what you're saying about that, Richard Bond. You're saying that, yeah, if he challenges, like, in other words, lose the classified documents case and let judge, like, let the January 6th case move forward, because if he comes back out in the Supreme Court, right now we have a jurisdictional problem, right? He can say, I lost in Florida, but in DC, we're still good. But if the Supreme Court comes back down, for example, like let's say this goes to the 11th Circuit, they reinstate the case, which I think might actually happen. They reinstate it, then the Supreme Court has to settle this. Then the Supreme Court sets a universal nationwide rule that no, actually Cannon was right. This is the new standard. You guys, Congress needs to pass something, right? Then he loses in DC also. So it is risky. You're right. But I think if they don't do anything, then Trump's going to make the same argument, right? He's just going to say, well, we're appealing your denial now, Chutkin. There's a circuit split, so this issue needs to go up in your jurisdiction. So, yeah, he might just be kind of stuck. He might have to just take this up. But they are not happy. They are not happy at all. You're right. It's risky. They're in a bad spot. They're in a bad spot because they're illegal. Maybe they should have just followed the law. I'm too tweaked. All they needed to do was appoint an actual U.S. attorney. No one would be here. But they didn't. They brought in a hack from some foreign land. What's up? Good to see you. I'm too tweaked. Membo for 1 month. First month's the hardest. Gets easier from there. Jack Smith, 20 to 24 years in prison. Love you guys. Yeah, he misappropriated $20 million, illegally raided someone's house, and tried to wreck our entire election. He should go away at least as long, I would say double the Proud Boys. So make it 45 years is fair. Hey, Knox is here. Says Archibald Cox was the special prosecutor during Watergate. The statute was in effect at that time. Ergo, the Nixon case had the benefit of the statute, which did not expire until 1991. It's a great point, Knox. And I did not make that point, but it's a great point. Thanks for making it. NY says AG Garland could have fixed this problem instantly. Signed every filing and pleading himself, but he can't. He recused himself, and no other AG will touch this. It's radioactive. Smith has no future. He was banished to The Hague years ago, so this position was a huge upgrade for him. Yeah, they needed him to handle their rigged case because a real prosecutor wouldn't have done it. 1,000,000 hugs to Sheila Pooh. 1,000,000 hugs to you. 5 membos gifted. Thank you, Sheila. Tons of membos coming in. Nathan Haynes, welcome. J.A. got one. We got Michael L. Cuckoo's Cam and Spine gifted membos courtesy of Sheila Pooh. 1,000,000 hugs to you. NY Renal on local says no one tasks Garland with the point I brought up. Garland can sign the filings himself and appoint another DOJ official. That's Senate confirmed. Yeah, just an actual U.S. attorney. That's it. Would have solved this whole thing. Case would still be alive. But they needed a fake hack. Hey, what's up? Sheila Pooh, Tulsi for Secretary of State. We made that point earlier this week. I said maybe Tulsi for that position. She's pretty anti-war, right? Theoretically. We like that. Hey, Frog Club, what's up? Says like and share the video, baby. Support all content creators on the right side of history. I appreciate that sentiment, Frog Club. And if you're a content creator on that same side, we support you back. Knox says, I see Kamala employing a Katie Hobbs-style election. No debates, no press conferences, etc. I wonder how she could win by saying nothing. Now I see that this is the new normal. Yeah, I mean, if the media is going to allow it and her constituents are fine with it because they don't really care, as I said, you know, all the people supporting Kamala, it's like, do you even want a candidate who can talk to you or not? We don't care. As long as it's not Trump and we have our abortions and more money for Ukraine and Israel and Gaza, then they're happy with it. Now it's their new normal. Voice of the People says, your neighbors must think you're nuts, yelling, why, God? Why did they pick the black man? I'd swear you were crazy. Yeah, I mean, you know, they're nice. They're nice dudes over there. They're super nice dudes. And I don't know that we're politically aligned. I don't know if we are. But we should be. They should watch the show. They should watch the show. Hey, Via's Never Silent says, hey, can you just imagine the discourse going on in DC offices? The staff must be going off the rails. Yeah, On the classified documents case, they must be just losing it because their whole case got dismissed. The whole case. And it was definitely the strongest of all the cases because it's just a document case. It's like, did you have or not? And even though it was rigged, the January 6th case is weak as hell because of immunity. But anyways, it got dismissed. They must be so mad. Hey, what's up, Cliff Norman? Good to see you. Says, Rob, it would seem that Kerry Kennedy may have put herself in the defamation lawsuit that Trump has filed mentioning that he R'd Carol. Spreading lies about the Carol might get her in trouble. Kerry Kennedy, RFK, could be the next to Georgie in a lawsuit for defamation. Whoever wrote the script for her wasn't too bright. Yeah, I know Trump is suing them for that, but the judge also in that case said something like digital penetration, which is, with your finger, also amounts to an R, so that people can say that it was basically an R, even though it wasn't an R. Now, the jury came back out and found that Trump was not liable for the R. They said it was only for the assault, but the judge rewrote it for that. So I'm curious how that's going to come up in this defamation lawsuit. But you're right. Okay, they're dishonest is exactly your point. And regardless of where those defamation suits go, I do hope that record is corrected. Because E. Jean Carroll is another, they created a statute so that a crazy lady like her could file a claim that they made up. And then now she's got a judgment. And there was immune conduct in there that they brought in as well. Sheila Poo, more membos. Dang, Sheila, you rock. Sheila Poo. Bringing in Chris JJ, Designed Audio, Crystal McNamer. Crypto Crackhead is here. Me Hutch. All gifted membos, courtesy of Sheila Poo. A million hugs to you, Sheila. Thanks for bringing them in. We got Tony Hay Munkets also is here. Says, I love you, Robert. I love you, Tony Hay Munkets. You're the man. Voice of the People says, I say Gitmo for all those involved in the bastardization of the judicial system like this. By the way, Eddie Block Films, is joining us tomorrow on Off Label Podcast. That's going to be a good one. So shout out to Eddie Block Films. Shout out to Off Label Podcast. You guys have a great stream. I know it's going to be amazing. Hey, look who's here. It's Bruce Rice Baby. Dun 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 dun. What's up? Bruce Rice Baby is bringing in 10 membos. Thank you, Bruce. Michael Burris is here. Brian Malone coming in. Backseat driver, what's up? JC, 40 Railman, Blueberry. We got Jennifer B, Wendy Donnelly, Tracy O'Shea, Gordon Beaton, and L. Lambert. Gifted membos, courtesy of Bruce Rice Baby. Dun 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 dun. All right, Zulu has a very interesting GIF. I don't know what that one is, so we'll just leave that one out. But what's up, Zulu? Zulu in the house. Thank you, Zulu. Zulu mods the fort down for us, brings in membos, and irritates some of you every now and then. But we love Zulu. What's up, Zulu? Thanks for being a membo, brother. Thanks for modding the fort down for us. And bringing in 10 new membos. IK coming in courtesy of Zulu. We got Gerard Thomas, BT, Skippy Peanut Butter's here. Don saying nice, Zulu. We got Uncle Mooch, Mars Soul, Jackie Kennedy, Rob Jones, Annie, Pitchlock, all gifted membos, courtesy of our friends. Zulu in the house. It's good to see you, Zulu. Thanks for being here, brother. I love you, and we love you. John Libby says, okay, what's up, John? Says, so in a nutshell, Jack was appointed by his superior because the funding directly coming from the DOJ makes him a subordinate of Merrick Garland? Because it sounds like Garland has him by the cojones and answers to him. Yeah, like kind of. Yeah, so Garland was really trying to have it both ways. Like he is inferior to Garland, but he's also not. He's also not beholden to Garland, because if he's beholden to Garland, then he's not really a special prosecutor. You know what I mean? Garland works for Joe Biden. So if Jack Smith works for Garland, then Jack Smith works for Joe Biden. So they said he was a special prosecutor, so he was not really like working for Garland. Oh, okay. So then he has his own office, like official? No. He does work for us. Oh, so then it's an inferior office, so then it has to be dictated by law and you have to appoint him and confirm him and all. No, because it's different. And they're just tapping into an indefinite, like it's all, right, they're just cobbling it together. They're trying to have it both ways, and basically that's what Cannon was saying, is you can't. The statute, you're tapping into statutes that give him U.S. attorney power. He's not a U.S. attorney. And yeah, and I don't know that Garland has him by the cojones. Like, I don't know that Garland has any real oversight over him, which is part of the problem. There's very little oversight. And thanks for the nice dono, John Libby. Great to have you. Appreciate that. Good question. Hey, Knox is here. Not dead yet. That's good, Knox. I didn't think so because you were sending chats earlier, but thanks for confirming it. Sorry, we misidentified you as dead today. All right, my apologies. Glad you're here. What's up? Flea Speech on Rumble says, can or should the dear families of murdered Abbey Gate service members sue the U.S.? Thank you as always. Love from Denmark. It's a good question. I don't know if they've already initiated something like that or how exactly that would work since they were deployed within the military. When I think of suing the government, I think of filing a civil claim against the government for some sort of negligence or something like that. But, they're in a war zone. So I think there's a standard, obviously there's a process for when we lose people, but I don't know that suing the government would comport with would be an adequate remedy here. But I don't know. It's a great question, Flea Speech. Because you could argue that there was tremendous negligence right there, right? And the military was maybe deprived of resources. I mean, who would you sue? Yeah, it's a good question, Flea Speech. What's up, Sheila Poo? 1 million hugs to you. 5 more membos. Sheila Poo is bringing in Brian Bishop. What's up? John Henry's in the house. Lucky Lady got gifted a membo. Sue Silver and Isaac Space Jesus in the house. We got Lady Ice says, Happy Dog's Day. Look at this real handsome young pup. Great to have both of these little princesses and princes there. Wendy Donnelly in the house. Wendy Donnelly is bringing in Sandy Moody, and Wendy's a membo. What's up, Wendy? Thanks for becoming a membo. Sandy Moody, Felix Stephenson, Big Boy Blue, Nana 1776, Golden Gaming, Swerk is here, Snoopy SN. We got Will Polera, Calbo Dave, Angela Green, and Trav Light, gifted membos courtesy of Wendy Donnelly in the house. Wendy, thanks for bringing in 10 new membos. 10 new membos. Welcome aboard, courtesy of Wendy Donnelly. We got Cougar Tracks. What's up, Cougar Tracks? 2 months as a membo. Great channel, great people. Thank you, Cougar Tracks, for being a part of it on both accounts. Thanks for being a membo for 2 months. 24 months as a membo? That's 2 full years, Tracy O'Shea. Happy 2-year anniversary. Thank you for being here with us for those 2 full years. That's a long time. We've seen some serious business. It takes us all the way back to 2022, man. Whew. Good times ahead. Thank you for that, Tracy O'Shea. That's a long time. Coming up on multiple babies. Catherine Rex, 13 months as a membo. What's up, Catherine? Says, it's been super busy on the boats. Just want to say hi. Good to see you, Catherine. I know you're busy out there, right? You're on the yachts. And thanks for swinging by. Thanks for being a membo for 13 months. Indoctrination is in the house. We got some more handsome pups today. Ivar and Garmer say happy dog day afternoon. Look at these 2 pups. Just little snuggle bugs right there. Man, little cuddle bugs, as happy as can be. You want to just get in there, just shake them up a little bit, don't you? Not really. You want to let them relax peacefully. Then when it's playtime, then we go outside and we, go outside. Flea Speech, what's up? After today's J13 panel, can the Secret Service be sued? Bongino was on fire. I think that might be different. Like Corey Compatore, right? His family might have a different claim. It's different when you're in the military versus being a civilian. But even then, it's qualified immunity. I think the Secret Service would say, well, you assume the risk, file a notice of claim. Suing the government is always a tall order. The answer is always it's difficult. NY says, if the 11th Circuit reinstates the case, Trump gets a huge bump. Randall Jenkins is in the house. Bringing in 5 new membos. What's up, Randall? Thanks for bringing in these membos and for being a membo yourself. We got Teresa McKenna's coming in. Woke racists really suck as a membo. Glad to have you. B. Pettingill, Vaj Man Jin Ha, welcome. We got Neo Wu gifted membos courtesy of Randall Jenkins in the house. What's up, Randall? Thanks for becoming a membo and bringing in 5 new membos. We got Holy F. Membo for 19 months says, I don't know if I said it, but Trump had an interview with Sean Ryan. Yeah, shout out to Sean Ryan. I haven't watched that yet, but I've seen a couple clips that he's been sharing, and it looks great. And I'm glad that Trump is doing that. There's some really good conversations happening. NY says, the chessboard is lining up and I'm worried. Trump has a lot of good moves. The economy is souring. Harris is not the dream candidate hoped for. The cases are on the rocks. I'm afraid they may try to take Trump out again. We got this one from MAGA Pound Cake says, think I asked this before, but if Trump got state tried but convicted with 34 felonies, can he pardon himself? It's Fed charges. Also, thanks for all you do, Rob, and mods, aloha. Yeah, so the argument is that you can't pardon yourself if it's a state prosecution. So Trump would not be able to pardon himself on the Bragg convictions or the Fani Willis convictions. But I don't think that those convictions will go through anyways. I think sentencing will be postponed. The Fani case will ultimately be dismissed. And it's going to be the 2 federal cases for the criminal charges. So, and if he wins and those cases aren't already disposed of, he would be well within his right to dispose of them. We got this one from Cliff Norman says, the statute says appointed by the president and approved by the Senate. Jackie missed both. As Ed Meese said, Jack is as qualified as Taylor Swift. But you're right, Cliff. And that was a good line. Shout out to Ed Meese for those lines and Cliff for remembering that. Yeah. All they needed to do was just go get an actual U.S. attorney. How complicated is that? There's tons of them. But they couldn't. They had to go get Jack. Rob on Rumble says Garland testified before Congress that Jack Smith was completely independent from him. That's a superior officer position. Yeah, and then they kind of walk that back because that's not a position that exists at all. And they were very coy about that, and I think that was also irritating to Cannon. MJ Powell says, 1 new membo is coming in. Dwayne Mansay coming in. Thank you to MJ Powell. What's up, MJ? Thanks for bringing him in. And V is Never Silent says, great chat today. Love to all the watching the watchers. And thanks, Rob. Thank you, V is Never Silent. It's great. We have a great chat. We have a great community, man. You guys have some of the best comments, the best comments. And we're grateful to have everybody here. And thank you for those amazing donos. Thanks for sending those in and being so supportive of what we're doing here. It's a beautiful Monday. We got some great comments on X. Let's see who's over there. Fred says, let's call Jack Smith Pinocchio. Let's call Jack Smith Pinocchio is not a real boy. Pinocchio is not a real boy, and he lies. Yeah, that's kind of why we do that voice. You know, he's not a real boy. Tammy Bruce, what's up? Slams Kerry Kennedy. Says, you people are awful. Yeah. The Kennedy family has been pretty disgusting in the aftermath of what Kennedy's doing. Hey, Tom DeWire says, what's the legal status of Fanny's boyfriend? I don't know. Belize? Hanging out in Belize, probably. He's got like $700,000 and a new car and nice new suits, courtesy of the taxpayers of Georgia. So probably enjoying those. Rella Bella says, given that John Smith was found to not be a real boy, can he even appeal this? Yeah, that's another good question. People are saying, yeah, you don't even have standing to appeal this. And that's kind of what we're talking about now is kind of standing. You know, does he actually have standing to be here in many ways? It's kind of the argument. Yeah. So good stuff. And my friends, thanks for sending those in over on X. We've got some good friends over there on X. If you're not on X, you can follow us and others over there. We also got Debbie Marie. What's up, Debbie? 9 months as a membo. Says, love your coverage as always. Thanks, Debbie. Love you being here. Says, thanks so much. Thanks for being here for 9 months. That's a full baby in the house. And we're glad to have you. So, my friends, that is where we're going to leave it here on the day. We are going to go over to locals for a members only after party. And YouTube friends, if you want to join us, you can do that. Just go over, if you're a member, a YouTube member. We do members only streams for YouTubes in the morning, but in the afternoon, grab that Telegram link from the community post tab, and we'll see you over on Telegram for our members only after party. Before we wrap it up, want to say thanks to our amazing mods and our meme smiths. We've got K Bean, Just Cause, Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zach Nichols, Janek Dog Digger, Economy Pilot, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, and our friend Zulu modding the fort down for us, keeping things oh so nice and beautiful and orderly. But that, my friends, is where we're going to leave it here on the day. We are going to come back here tomorrow to get into it all again. And in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.